Wisteria, energy, twister.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Encyclopedia of the Fairies. We're now on fairy trees. Fairies and trees have had a long connection in mythology and folklore. So let's take a brief look at a selection of trees that can be associated with fairy lore. Obviously, it can be convoluted as well, because the trees themselves are often reputed to have spirits. So, much like we might understand dryads in a modern context, that beyond this spirit, tree or tree spirit, could also be home or just associated with other fairies. Birch. In Scotland, it's particularly associated with the Gilly-Doo, who was said to lurk in birch groves. It's a solitary fairy, gentle and helpful, but appearances often frightens people though. In Ireland, however, fairies are thought to dislike birch, which is used to drive out spirits and avoid. They avoid this tree at all costs, fairies and spirits. The oaks. Oaks have a strong association with spirits and fairies. Most notably, there's a kind of fairy called oakmen who live in the areas where oaks have been cut and are regrowing. They appear as short, solid-looking beings wearing red hats. They may be dangerous to those who try trespass in their woods. There is also the well-known rhyme of fairy folk are in old oaks. Not all oak fairies are dangerous, as one entry in the Din Shenshas discusses learning law from fairy folk in an oak wood. You just need to be careful because some are very dangerous, some are not. Rowan berries, by some accounts, are food of the Tuatha de Danann, and by extension, some people see them as food of the fairies in general. Rowan is seen as both a protection against magic, but is also a conduit for magic, appearing in folklore as a charm against fairy magic and witchcraft, but also in stories. We can see rowan wands used to cast enchantments. Yeah, it's true. I have a rowan wand, so it's true. Elm. A communal tree. It was believed if one elm was cut down, the others would die from grief. The spirits of the trees were so tightly bonded that the death of one would doom them all. Hawthorn. Strongly associated with good people, it is believed that it's unlucky to bring hawthorn into a home. A lone hawthorn growing in a field is often considered a fairy tree. It's dangerous, yes. Don't bring harm to the tree because they will definitely seek wrath. It's an old custom to leave gifts for the other crowd at the base of a lone hawthorn tree. Blackthorn is guarded by fairies. They're called Lunan Tishi, who punish anyone who tries to cut blackthorns on Samhain or Beltane. Going by the old dates, which would be November 11th or May the 11th. So, I guess it depends. Blackthorn generally has a grim reputation. It's seen as a dangerous tree that should not be messed with, although, like so many others, it also had protective qualities. Ash. Protection against fairies in folklore. The ash was used to reverse or treat maladies caused by fairies. These beliefs accorded that the tree extra respect for it would be earned, so that it should not be burned or messed with or harmed or even carved into. Some law relating that any who burned the ash would lose their home to fire. Some stories also mention a person's soul being trapped in an ash or otherwise placed in it by someone or some beings. It was said that willows walked at night and would follow people travelling alone. Their reputation was overall malevolent. This may connect the willow more general with water fairies, who had a reputation for being dangerous. Like the water itself, I guess. Lady Wilde suggests that willows speak in music. Elder. In England and Scotland, the elder is a protection against witchcraft and evil beings, is said to be home to the fairies of good intent. In Scotland, the sap of the elder was believed to grant the ability to see Fairy Raid and Samhain, if the person then stood beneath an elder. In alternate folklore, elders are said to be shape-changing witches. Elders are another tree that is generally believed should never be burned, or ill luck will follow the person. In Ireland, the elder has a darker reputation, being associated with both ghosts and seen as wood that invites fairy mischief. In Ireland and the Isle of Man, it's believed that fairies ride on elder twigs and branches. In Manx law, the elder is a fairy tree in its own right, and disturbing it can bring the same ill luck and harm to a person that we see with the thorn trees elsewhere. It's only a small selection of trees I know, but generally they are the important ones, because, as you know, there are many different trees, and they all have many different meanings to them, especially if you look at Celtic lore as well, because in Celtic lore there's a lot more meanings to the trees, but those are just a few selection. Also, it's believed that any thorn, like blackberry bushes and things like that, they are a realm into fairyland, if you manage to actually get through them, that is. Fairyology, that's a term dating back to Victorian era, a period which showed a note of fascination with fairies and folklore. Fairyology refers to the study of fairies from what was intended to be a more scientific basis and can be found in print as early as 1850s. For example, a pamphlet was published in 1859 titled A Few Fragments of Fairyology showing the connection with natural history, which tries to establish a tie between fairy phenomena and the natural world. Yeah, fairyology is really interesting. I'm actually not doing fairyology right now. I'm actually doing elfology, or the elvenology, which is kind of different, but then again, all intermingles with the same, right? Thank you for listening to this part of the fairies. Many blessings.
Wisteria. Energy. Twister.